Iblis succeeded. He succeeded in getting our mother and our father, alayhum as-salam, to eat from the tree and to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What the angels feared, and they, in curiosity, asked Allah, why are you creating this creation? It came to light. They understood, as Iblis understood, something that has the ability to choose and that is paired with desire cannot but is bound to make wrong choices. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you don't know. And remember, had Allah wanted to, He could have put a fence around the tree. He could have stripped Adam alayhi salam from choice to protect him. That could have happened. But had Allah done that, pay attention, had Allah taken away the ability to choose what is sometimes called free will or free choice, had Allah taken that away from the human being, then you know what? We wouldn't be human. In fact, I could even go above and beyond and say, had Allah stripped the human being from choice, from will, then the entire project Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is introducing to the creation would be rendered meaningless. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is the following. The fact that we can choose allows us certain potentials that other creations don't have. And the fact that we are able to choose, it makes this idea of the human being so unique, yet so beautiful. So check this out. The fact that we can choose is precisely why Allah created us. And it is the secret power of the human being and the secret between the human being and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This right here is what gives the human being a certain potential to be the best. How so? You see, the angels worship Allah. They purify themselves for Allah. They're constantly doing tazkiyah of the self for the sake of Allah. They're worshiping Allah. As the Prophet ﷺ says, there's not a handspan in the sky except that there's an angel there doing ruku' or doing sujood or praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But why do they do that? Because they are forced to do that by Allah. They are designed, I should say, to do that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have no other choice. Now I want to ask you a question, dear brothers and sisters. Imagine this right here. Imagine this scenario right here. Somebody comes to you and says, this is so-and-so. This person is now your best friend. And so I'm asking you to love this person. Now you've never met this person. You have no idea who they are. You haven't had time to actually build a relationship with this person. But now it's being introduced to you, this person is being introduced to you, and you're being told you have to take them as your best friend. You know, I'll do it even a little bit more sensitive. You have to take them as your spouse, and you have to love them as your spouse. Does that really work for the human being? It doesn't. Well, why not? Well, because there's no choice in it for you. When you talk about a relationship, it is by choice. What makes a relationship is the fact that you choose willingly, freely to be in that relationship. And then who you choose to be in a relationship with, there are also dynamics there. You don't just choose some random person, but rather that other person needs to be of a certain standard that is similar to you, that is meaningful to you. And so you might know people, but they will never go beyond being acquaintances. And you know some people who have become your best friends. And you have met someone, or you will meet someone, who will become your beloved spouse. And you, inshallah, you have children, or you will have children. Oh, and that relationship is the strongest. Well, based on what? Why? Well, because you've had time to grow with one another, to learn about one another. You've taken stances for one another. You've protected one another. You've been there for one another. And the more that goes on, then what? A relationship is formed. And the more that builds, then love is established. This is how it works, but it all goes back to your ability to choose and who to choose. The angels, they don't have that. but the human being does. And so imagine this. You have the choice to obey Allah, but you also have the choice to disobey Allah. You have the choice to dedicate your time, your resources, your energy to worship Allah. But at the same time, you have other things around the world, other people in the world who are trying to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the one who chooses Allah over these things, they choose it based on what? Based on a certain amount of love for Allah. It cannot but be that. Any person who willingly prostrates their head, put their head on the floor for Allah, to worship Him, seeking something from Him, there is no explanation for that except love. And so the human being, because we have choice, we have the potential to be in a very unique relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is truly founded on love. Now, I'm not saying the angels don't love Allah. Clearly they do. But there's a big difference between love that's essentially placed in a person's heart or an angel's heart versus love that needs to be by choice. Thus, it needs to grow. You need Allah to show you things so that you trust Him more. You need to do things so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you more. This is a dynamic now. And therefore the potential to be near to Allah. The meaning of worship, the depth of worship, what it really reflects from the human being, the one who can make choice, is very, very beautiful. And so when we talk about choice, dear brothers and sisters, understand what's going on here. And also understand the fact that we have choice, we are bound to do what? As our father and our mother did, alayhum assalam. We are bound to make mistakes. The angels say, oh, we can't make mistakes. So why don't you just make more like us? A very rational argument. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that when a human being makes mistakes, this opens the door for something incredibly important when it comes to the relationship between the created and the creator. And it is called tawbah. It's called repentance. The angels cannot sin. They cannot make mistakes in this meaning of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're doing it left and right. But because we're doing it, we now have access to this idea called repentance. Humbling oneself, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, realizing our mistake, feeling bad about our mistake, feeling a lack of self-worth because we made that mistake, feeling guilt and anxiety because of the mistake. And now we're reaching out to Allah, hoping and begging for His mercy. And then Allah shows us mercy. And Allah forgives us. The angels know Allah to be the most merciful and the all-forgiving. But since there is nothing to forgive the angels for, they can never experience Allah's forgiveness and Allah's mercy. They know it, but there's a difference between knowing something and experiencing it. So embrace the fact that you have choice. Embrace it as a tool for building a relationship with Allah. Appreciate the value of obeying Allah in light of having the choice not to. Be happy and be excited about fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in light of having to fight disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all the desires that this world tries to attract us to. You are a human being. And as a human being, you have choice. And choice is foundational to the human experience. And it is a beautiful part of the human experience because the one who chooses willingly to submit to Allah is in a beautiful relationship with Allah, one that is based on love, one that has a potential for growth. What other creation has this gift? Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khair for watching. Please share this khair and let other people benefit from the lessons and support this masjid by becoming one of its sustainers.